best quarterback or equal best quarterback in the land, Tao for mine. But I think that their defence is awful. I mean, it's just not any good. It's vulnerable. Their secondary's no good. They're going to leak yards. I think they were leaking sort of 400 yards a game early in the season. They've got a little bit better at it. But them and New England, for me, are the two pots, because if you can't stand up defensively, and this looks like a season where the great defensive teams are going to go deep, then I think you're vulnerable. And the other problem is in their division, they've got Tampa Bay, who are lighting it up at the moment. Yep. Huge offensive scores in the last month. Atlanta, who they beat last week, but they've still got to play them again. And Carolina with Cam Newton that could do anything. So they're frustrating, Carolina. If they were in a worse division, you'd say there's still absolutely a chance. But unfortunately, I think Tampa Bay and Atlanta have still got too much quality and will keep beating out of division teams to keep the lead on them they've got at the moment. And that's the irony for New York, I guess. Greg Schiano, who's the coach now at Tampa Bay, who came out of Rutgers University, which is 45 minutes up the road, and a modest, nondescript university in the I think it's the Big East, or the Big Ten might even be, in the college system. Used to go and watch their games because it was the most local game. He's come from the New York system and gone on and maybe he should have been the coach of the New York Jets. He was right there for them for many years. We do have to take a quick break on Betstars and Stripes. After this, Studs and Duds. Also to Matt in Balnarring. I know Hutchie's very keen to talk about some of the college football today. A crazy day over there in the States, and we'll check in on all of that, of course, at Betstars and Stripes. Brought to you by Betstar. Double fixed odds available again this weekend for the Railway and Winterbottom Stakes over in the West from 11 a.m. on a race day. This is Betstars and Stripes.
This is Bet Stars and Stripes with Dr. Turf, Ed Wyatt and Alice Gander.
You can take on a Betstar at betstar.com.au or betstar.mobi. Alice Gander here with us for Betstars and Stripes, talking all things US sport. Craig Hutchison and Teo Palazzeri joining me, Darren Parkin, here for about another 20 or so minutes. Plenty of SMSs, which we will get to in just a moment. But Studs and Duds, one of our very popular segments as part of this program. We like to be kind before we're nasty, so we'll start off with the Studs. And Al, you can take us away with yours.
I'll take the new ball. Studs, I will elect Joe Flacco as my stud for this week. I think that he's typically given a lot of criticism as being just an average quarterback. He's not a game breaker. He doesn't sort of perform that well on the big stage. But this week he has been far from that. The Ravens offense broke out against the Raiders. Flacco threw for 341 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, and the Ravens absolutely smashed Oakland 55-20. He also had a 1-yard touchdown sneak. And the Ravens scored 6 of their first 7 possessions.
Teo, who's your stud of the week?
Yeah, stud of the week, Calvin Johnson, who's finally back catching touchdown passes, which is important because he was getting yardage, but he wasn't connecting with Matt Stafford, his quarterback. 207 yards last week on 12 catches, and we saw off the SMS earlier in the show, Darren, someone asking, is this the latest victim of the Madden curse? Whichever athlete ends up on the front of the Madden game tends to either underperform, be forced into retirement with injury, or suffer off-field scandal a la Brett Favre and photos of himself. So Calvin Johnson was definitely a contender for the Madden curse, and Detroit right now, bottom of their conference, so you got to say it is still true.
Have numerous SMSs mentioning the Madden curse too. So.
Love Megatron, and Ben Graham says he's the best athlete he's ever played with, even better than Gary Ablett Sr. Okay. Jimmy Graham's my stud for the week. It was great to see him back in peak form, 146 yards, the best tight end, most athletic tight end in the game, I think. And I think he had a pair of touchdowns on the weekend, bunch of catches, 7 passes. When he's on, it just makes that offense look so explosive because you've got to guard the run, you've got to guard the wide receivers, and you've got this towering guy doing all the damage in the middle. He can block too. He's a super player. I think he played basketball as a kid, was a late convert to American football, and is probably the best tight end in the land.
Now, those are the blokes that are on. Now we'll look at some of the blokes that are off with the duds.
Yeah, my dud for the week is going to be Mark Sanchez. I mean, him and the whole New York Jets team would want to forget 2012. It's been a terrible season for them, and this weekend was no different. He completed only 9 of 22 passes for 124 yards in the Jets' loss, and was intercepted once, and also lost a fumble. So Mark Sanchez is my dud for this.
And broke up with Evan Longoria. Throw that in.
Tragic. I mean, I wouldn't be able to concentrate if that happened to me. Jesus.
Teo, what have you got for this week?
Yeah, it's an easy whipping boy. The Raiders' defence, they give away umpteen penalties every week. Now, now. They've broken a long-standing record for the first time since 1962. They've given up 40 points in 2 straight games. They have the second worst defense in the entire NFL, only behind Tennessee, and up against the New Orleans Saints this weekend. Even though they are at home, they're a massive 4.5-point underdog, and I would say they're going to break 300 points against this weekend quite comfortably.
Rex Ryan aside, who's my dud of the week, but the broader team of duds is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Get it together, boys. Such a terrible performance. This franchise has really fallen off the map, having a terrible season. They've got to go and get Tim Tebow. He's of course plied his craft in Florida and is a much loved figure in Florida, one of the greatest college players of all time in Florida. He would single-handedly save the franchise, I think. He'd create money, create tickets. They're not getting people through the gates. I think some of their games haven't even been able to be televised because of the blackout rules. Go and get Tim Tebow next year. He's not probably going to take you into the top 4, 6 or 8 teams in the comp, but he might make you playoff contender, and he'll put a lot of bums on seats.
Blaine Gabbert, their QB, possibly the most inappropriate candidate for Movember given the amount of attention his play was already bringing to himself. Now he has the garish moustache as well. Not a good look when you're throwing a lot of interceptions.
I agree. He's not too bad, the kid. They need some support around him. Maurice Jones-Drew sat out in the off-season and was a bit of a prima donna about his contract. Go and get Tebow.
Matt in Balnaring, fantastic little race course down there, says, not sure if you've talked about it, crazy day in college football today, but more importantly, UCLA beating USC.
Massive game. I don't know if you saw any of that game this morning, but the UCLA, I don't think they've beaten the Trojans in something like 5 or 6 or 7 years. I can't remember in my time spending time them winning. Big game today. The defence made a big play early. The traditional rivalry. I think the Trojan was banned from being with the horse was banned from being on the field before the game. And USC lost 4 games now. That's really going to put them under enormous pressure because they've got draft restrictions the next 2 years. And next week, UCLA have got a big game. I think they've got Oregon in the last game next week. And I think USC have got another game. They've got Notre Dame next week. So an unbelievable day. That game was a big enough story in itself. And then the 2 big upsets. For Baylor to beat Kansas State, unbelievable upset. And for Stanford, who I think started about $8.50 at Betstar, to get, or plus 21.5 at one point, to get over the top of Oregon. I mean, we had 2 sort of $8 winners against the 2 best teams this morning. And the national championship has been burst at the seams. Biggest day in college I can ever remember. And tomorrow when the ratings come out, it'll be fascinating to see who's ranked 1 through 5.
Couple of SMSs summarising some of the things before we take a break and look at the NFL games for week number 10. Thoughts on Ravens Steelers on Sunday Night Football? That's one we'll touch on after the break. What are Pittsburgh's prospects, Hutchie? I'm a huge fan. Steelers are always thereabouts, Mark, in Albinvale.
They're just starting to come good, and I actually think they're a better team than Baltimore at heart. But the Big Ben injury is the thing, too. I mean, it's really unknown how long he'll be out for. Their backup, Byron Leftwich, I think it is.
It is, yep.
No world beater. They're a defensive team, though, so they can survive on the defence. And Byron's got them by in the past. They start something like, and we'll get it from Al after the break, about $2.45 at Beststar this weekend. If they got to sort of $2.60, you want to be involved. But I think that's about their right.
$2.48.
$2.48. Well, if you got $2.50, $2.55, definitely get involved because I think Pittsburgh can win. But it all depends on Big Ben, doesn't it?
And their other highest-profile player on the other side of the ball, Troy Polamalu, who's cutting a forlorn figure on the sidelines because he just can't get fit and get reactivated back into the team. But Byron Leftwich did take Jacksonville to the playoffs about 7 or 8 years ago. A capable quarterback. They did have Charlie Batch in there previously, who never expected to play behind Ben Roethlisberger. But at least we know that Leftwich has been a number 1 in his career, and that's something to hold on to. I would back Leftwich over Jason Campbell, for example, in the backup role that he's taking on.
Last SMS before we take a break. The Maestro from Q says Cowboys need to sack Garrett.
Jason Garrett.
Short and sweet.
Unpopular when you lose in Dallas, regardless of who you are. Jerry Jones loves him, though, because he's a former Dallas quarterback, and he allows Jerry Jones to be the man because Jason Garrett is just the coach and Jerry Jones, the owner, remains the face of the franchise.
He has no presence, does he, Garrett? Like he's a nice guy, short, was a backup quarterback. He's a backup sort of type, isn't he? He's a classic assistant coach in AFL parlance. Jerry Jones is 80 years old and he's the owner and general manager and answers to himself. I mean, I think the problem begins and ends there. But they'll win tomorrow. just take the $1.26 on the Betstar doubles into everything you do because it's just bank interest.
Absolutely. From 4 p.m. Every Sunday, those $2 power lines, thanks to Betstar. We are going to take a break. It's Betstars and Stripes talking US sport, and we'll preview all of the games for Week 10 and also take a look at some of the key NBA matchups.
This is Betstars and Stripes with Dr. Turf, Ed Wyatt and Alice Gander.
Betstars and Stripes, thanks to a Betstar. Double fixed odds available again this weekend. Saturday the 24th of November for the Railway and Winterbottom Stakes in WA as Perth gets their time to shine as part of spring racing around Australia. Alice Gander here with Craig Hutchison and Teo Palazzeri joining me in time to take a look at some of the big games for Monday morning for us here.
Yeah, let's kick off with tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Green Bay $1.54 out to $1.60. They go to Detroit and take on the Lions, and Lions have been back. They're $2.54 into $2.40. The line is 3 and the overs and unders are 52 points.
Yeah, I think this is the best over and under bet of the weekend. I think the north of 52 is a terrific bet, Al. I think the right line's about 60. This will be a high-scoring game, and Green Bay I'm really keen on. Tal?
Agree. I would back Green Bay to win this by a touchdown rather than the 3 points. So I think they'll cover 3.
So the minus, you're on there. And the overs and unders have drifted out as well. It was 50. It was a flat 50. It's out to 52.
Great way to watch the game if you're a novice punter too.
Yeah. It's a really popular form of betting in US sports, the overs and unders lines. 5 o'clock tomorrow morning also, the Colts, $4.50. They take on New England, who are playing at home. The Pats are $1.21. The line is 9.5. The overs and unders are 54.5 points.
Really, sorry, Tal. I really like Indianapolis here. They're 6-3. They've had a terrific year. The New England secondary is awful, really woeful defence, New England. Tom Brady, he really wallpapers over the cracks there. Andrew Luck is going to put a lot of points on this defence. If you like the over and under in that 54, perhaps take the overs again, but I think the better bet is it the 8.5, Al?
9.5.
9.5. Well, it's a monstrous head start, Indianapolis. It's not beyond the realms they can win, but the 9.5 would be my equal best recommendation of the weekend.
Andrew Luck wants to make a statement. This is the new spin on the classic rivalry. Peyton Manning and Tom Brady didn't like each other, and I think Andrew Luck is going to at least get the cover here for the Colts, and 9.5 I'd say would be a good bet.
8 a.m. tomorrow morning, live on Fox Sports. New Orleans, $1.42 favourite. Take on the Raiders, $2.90. The line is 4.5. Overs and unders, 54.5.
Over for this one. The Raiders conceded 55 last week. We all know what the Saints' defence is like. Saints 4.5-point favourites on the road in Oakland, but I think that's no insurance. Oakland's best offensive weapon is a kicker, Sebastian Janikowski. Carson Palmer will throw interceptions, will make errors in this game, and not only will it go over, I reckon, but I think that New Orleans might even cover 4.5.
Not very enthused by the game at all, but that said, I think I wouldn't like to have a bet, to be honest. I think probably, if forced to, Oakland, something small, win only, because, as Tao said, if they got behind, they could lose by 20. But, I think at home they're about a 7 to 10 point better team.
Live 1HD, 8:15 tomorrow. San Diego Chargers, $3.90. The Broncos, $1.27. They've been back to $1.29 into $1.27. The line's gone from 8.5 into a flat 8, and the overs and unders are 48.5 points.
I mark San Diego 260 here, so I'm not out of my way wanting to get involved, but it's a massive over at Betstar. I think the 390 is juicy odds. Have something small in it to win if you're a punter, and perhaps I think the line as well. But I'd be much happy just to watch this go around with a small interest on San Diego because they're way over the odds.
This was the crazy game where San Diego led 24-0 at half-time, and then Peyton Manning brought the Broncos back.
With 5 touchdowns.
And they're 2-0 against all their divisional rivals, the Broncos, and that'll continue. They'll win this. It's just a question of whether or not San Diego can put up some points and stay within 8.
It's been a long time since we've seen San Diego go around $3.90. It's almost uncomfortably big odds on San Diego.
Live on ESPN at 12:20 on Monday. The Ravens are $1.57 favourites. All the money's been for Pittsburgh. They've been $2.52 into $2.48. The line is a flat 3, and the overs and unders line is 40 points.
Won't be much in it. I like Pittsburgh, to be honest, but I'd love to get just a touch more than that. Watch the market with real interest. The $2.52, if you got that at Betstar, you've shopped well. But you never know, because I got a funny feeling in these games that are late in the weekend, people try and get out, they generally back the favourites. Am I right in saying
Yeah, no,
that?
that's fair call.
And they generally follow the quarterback, and they go, Roethlisberger's out. So wouldn't surprise me if they snuck back at over $2.50 at your place, and if they did, that's good value.
I didn't trust the Ravens last